It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
The time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. So, dive right into this real quick. We got some weather that we've been wanting for quite a while, and it has had some good effects. So I'm going to take a look at this. First off, if you're traveling somewhere today, now, of course, because of the fire north of Sheridan, you want to get over the Bighorns, the fire is not going to let you. But also, because of the snow on the western side of the mountains, kind of slick there right now. They haven't closed that side, but kind of slick. That's Highway 14. Then if you're wanting to go up and over the Bighorns on Highway 16, which is, let's say, up and over out of Buffalo or from 10 Sleep up and over, you can do it, but they have that as a warning just because of the snow in the area. It's really slick up there right about now. Also, if you wanted to go between Buffalo and Gillette, Wyoming, same thing. You can do it. They haven't closed the roads. They just put some warnings out. And there's a few other spots as well that you can find. Just, hey, be careful out there because it's a little slick. And according to Miss Mary, they just started with some snow in the Casper area. Morning, Jim. Y'all coming back today? And the answer is no, I'll be down here, so I won't be coming back today. But thanks for the y'all. The real southern thing there. All right, so then when I took a look at what happened in the Bighorn Mountains overnight, and I've been watching the snow come down, that's definitely some good news. Now, I have a couple of stories that I put up about this, and these stories come directly from the Forest Service that's dealing with the elk fire up in the Bighorn. So it says, operations update. Moisture persisted over the elk fire through the afternoon into the evening, resulting in no fire activity as in no fire fighting activity. And they received up to about an inch with a perspective of up to 13 inches by the time they all went to bed, which, by the way, they all got some needed sleep overnight. Firefighters focused on winterizing almost 250 portable pumps, which were pulled offline early due to safety concerns because of the weather. An additional 2.5 inches or so is expected overnight from Thursday on into today. We might get some snow overnight. We could, again, tonight, into Friday, into Saturday. We'll see, but I'll talk to Don Day about this when he comes on at 7:45. But they might get a little bit more for Friday, which would be good news. All personnel safely relocated to hotels and motels and fairgrounds and the community college. So for Friday, operations will be delayed, again, safety reasons. It's also really good. It's not just a matter of the moisture that's falling, but you can imagine up in the mountains, it's just covered in a mist because of all the clouds up there, which is also good. High humidity is really good. But they do add, while the moisture offers some much-needed relief, it is only temporary. They say warmer, drier conditions will be coming, and that's true. That's part of the forecast. And then by the weekend, next weekend, we might get another good bout just like we did here, which would offer some relief. Now, another story that I put up, and you got to see that because this is just really cool. They are pulling out all of the big, bad machines to fight this thing. And I mean, really pulling out the big, bad machines to fight this thing. They're not screwing around here with this. So machines are the type that would just pick up, and I one time saw this in Florida. I was just driving through a wooded area in Florida, and I saw one of these machines for the first time in operation. Literally, it's a big sucker, tank treads, all of that kind of stuff, that will just go over and grab a tree, and a blade comes out the bottom and cuts the tree near the base, and then it just tips the tree over and hauls it off to where they need it. So what they're doing is engaging, let's just call it deforestation, which will drive the environmentalists nuts, but it's either that or it all burns down. And so they're going through areas and cutting massive areas down of forest with big, heavy equipment. Now, some of this equipment, let's see what they've named here, because there's some cool names here. The masculator, see what I mean? Similar to a wood chipper, mounted on an excavator-type tractor. which moves through the forest and can quickly grind trees or chop trees and brush, and then all that gets just hauled out of there. The feller buncher is a machine that can rapidly gather and cut trees, so fells them, and then just carries them away. So it's a lot faster than having someone show up with a chainsaw, because this machine does it in under a minute. The skidder, which is used to increase productivity on site, it says, by quickly and efficiently pulling large quantities of timber out of the forest. These machines can rapidly create fire lines and just get rid of massive amounts of fuel. Then what they'll do is go through with anything that might be left over, grass, brush, whatever, and they're burning it. So these are controlled burns in the area. So when the fire gets to these massive fire breaks, there's just nothing left for them. And then outside of that, they drop all sorts of slurry and stuff to increase the size of the fire line. So this is what they have been working on. The fire, once again, provides a little bit of a break for these guys so they can stage some things in advance, but also, I bet you they got some sleep last night. I mean, imagine these guys finally get a decent meal, a shower. Well, let's do the shower first, then a decent meal, and then just a good night's rest. And then when they have an opportunity, they'll go out again and start working on this fire. Oh, now also, let's go over to Togety Pass. Same thing's going on there. I'm waiting for the sun to come up, but I was able to get a look at some of the cameras from WYDOT to see what the Tetons, Togety Pass, but then also to the Bighorns, what it looks like. And those cameras, even though it's nighttime, shows a good amount of snow has fallen on the area. Now, what the total is, I don't know yet. So I'm waiting to find out. Again, Don Day will come on at 7:45. He has an extended forecast at 6:45. At 7:45, I'm going to kind of grill him about this. Now, do you know how much snow did we get into the area? And so that's how much help it'll be for the people fighting the fires out there. I also keep thinking about the snow bringing, and rain too, a lot of rain, and all of the clouds that have moved into the area, especially that are socking in the mountains, and what that's doing to the smoke. Because those of us who have been dealing with it, you think it's bad in some other areas around Wyoming. Imagine living right by that. Well, a lot of that smoke is just being cleared out of the area, at least temporarily, so people can breathe for a while. So once the weather clears out of the way, and it does, within the next day or so here, we'll finally get a chance to get a look at what kind of help this was. And I'm sure the firefighters were more than relieved to see the system comes in. Now, again, temperatures stay a bit on the cool side, and we stay dry after this system moves out. We stay dry again until about next week, weekend. And when the weekend rolls in, it's so far forecasted that another system like this one will give them another helping hand. And, of course, that kills the fire danger for us for a little while longer and lets them get maybe another handle up on that. Whether that system actually matures and comes through, we'll see. We're talking a week out. And so, a forecast that lasts that far out or is forecasted that far out is not something that's completely reliable. We'll just have to wait and see. 6:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
6:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So if you're just joining me real quick, yes, the snow had a nice impact on the fires, both in the western part of the state and up above Sheridan into the Bighorns there. Putting it out, no. Providing some good relief and a chance for the firefighters, yeah. Also have a really good story on some of the big mega equipment they've brought in to cut fire lines, which is really impressive, so you may want to check that out. And watch for some slick roads today, especially if you're in between Gillette and Buffalo, Right now, that section of Interstate 90 is a little on the slick side. Not closed, but just a little on the slick side because of the weather. And we'll keep you up to date with that weather, especially with an extended forecast at 6:45. Now, last time, I'm here again in Cheyenne, Wyoming, at the studios of KGAB. Last time I was here, I think, or the time before, I was telling you guys about somebody that I was looking at, because I can look right down out of the windows of the studio. I'm up above in a bank building, the A&B bank building. I'm kind of way up. And I can look down on the streets below. So there's Capitol that goes all the way up to the Capitol. That's right below me. And then the intersection of Capitol and 20th. And I watched a guy at this time of the morning walk up to the street intersection there between Capitol and 20th. And he stood there and waited until the street light changed, and it gave him permission. The pedestrian sign gave him permission to cross the street. And there's nobody out there right now. There's nothing out there. There's no cars on the road at all. There's nobody. Once he got across Capitol, or 20th, pardon me, he then turned to cross Capitol and had to stand there and wait for the countdown again, which is 19 seconds. And he waited the entire 19 seconds and then finally cross that. And I thought, why not just cut across? I mean, and not even just one road then the other. I mean, at an angle, true jaywalking. Well, I would have done. There's nobody here. And we got into a nice discussion about that on the air. What would you have done? From Riverton, Wyoming, comes this headline from Cowboy 10 News. I'm sorry, Cowboy 10? County 10 News. Members of the Riverton City Council said the jaywalking ordinance they approved on third and final reading this week will make it safer for pedestrians to cross the roadway. In order to force this means that the police will have to go out and write some tickets. The idea is to keep people from getting run over, said the councilman Mike Bailey. Our intent is not to go out and find reasons to fine people. It's just to try to encourage people to follow the rules there for their own protection. The new law clarifies who is responsible for what when pedestrians cross the street, said another councilman. For example, if a pedestrian is using a marked crosswalk or crossing the street as an intersection, nearby motorists are responsible not to run them over. Did you know that? As a motorist, you are responsible to not run them over. So you're supposed to be looking too, in other words. That's if you're the driver. If a pedestrian crosses the street outside of the crosswalk or intersection, however, it is their responsibility to not infringe traffic. Okay, now we're all supposed to know those rules, right? Good. There's a very delineated distinction. They also point out that the ordinance doesn't prohibit pedestrians from crossing the street outside the crosswalk or intersection. Let me do that again. They point out that the ordinance does not prohibit pedestrians from crossing the street outside of the crosswalk or intersection. Yes, you can absolutely do it. That's an important distinction. Do you have to cross? You know, they have those lines where you're supposed to walk through. Do you have to cross there? No. They said that's an important distinction. But your job as a pedestrian to clear the roadway and not get run over. Now, I have to read that again because this is quoting one of the city officials. It is your job as the pedestrian to clear the roadway and not get run over. As a habitual pedestrian, one councilwoman said, they especially appreciate the portion of the ordinance that places the onus on the driver to yield to the pedestrians. The ordinance says the driver of a vehicle shall yield the right-of-way to any pedestrian who lawfully enters the marked crosswalk, a crosswalk with traffic-controlled devices, or an unmarked crosswalk at the intersection until the pedestrian has cleared the way. That protects people. Yeah, legally, too. One councilwoman says, I walk a lot. Drivers do not stop. It's on them. So it's true, as a driver, you're supposed to stop when you see a pedestrian, especially if that pedestrian is following the rules. Doesn't mean if they're not following the rules, you can run them over, however. She hopes the new law would remind people that when they are crossing, you need to stop because it's a problem. It's a big problem. Sounds like Donald Trump when they say it that way. There's also many tickets written when cars don't stop for pedestrians, but also for pedestrians that cause a problem as well. I find it really interesting, though. I think it's really interesting. You don't have to cross where they've laid out the grid for you to cross. But if you're going to break those rules, then it's on you as the pedestrian to have your head on the swivel and to watch what you're doing. So there's a little bit of responsibility for each party here in this. So would it be okay for someone to get to this intersection that's below me here of Capitol and 20th and do what I said, just jaywalk, true jaywalking, just cut across at an angle? There's nobody here. Just keep your head on the swivel and watch. Well, according to this new ordinance from Riverton, it's okay to do that, but it's on you as the pedestrian. And as the driver, yeah, you have a responsibility too. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way. After local news, update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Drop.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:36 the time with Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so first off, Chet from Yoder, since I was talking about the fires and the snow that we got, and there are stories on the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning about that. Chet said, yesterday I cheered the snow on. The fires, and then here's where he got in trouble. And Israel taking out a very evil person. Facebook pulled them for community standards. Well, it was where you got into Israel taking out an evil person, probably where Facebook would have pulled it for community standards. And I guess it would also depend on how you said it, too. I do have a story this morning about our upcoming elections, not far off, and how it was Project Veritas. He had to change the name for it. But basically, James O'Keefe has a video undercover of someone who is on community standards for Facebook and how if you are dissing Kamala Harris, they're going to de-emphasize what you said. Not many people are going to see it. So, yeah, Facebook once again meddling in the election and free speech. Heidi John, morning, Glenn. Thanks for the update on street crossings. Nothing has changed since I was 5 that I learned for the first time. Well, here's the thing, though. I do think some people need an update, and not just the pedestrians, not just the drivers, but also the police. Just in case you forgot. No, you don't. And well, it depends on where you live, too. Because if you're living in some major city like New York and you cross the street not at a crosswalk, you might get a ticket for that from a bored cop. Yeah, but here in Wyoming, though, according to Riverton, Wyoming, what they just passed as an ordinance, if you decide to walk across the street and you're not using the marked crossing lane, according to Riverton, that's okay. But it is on you as the pedestrian. You need to make sure the way is clear. So if you get hit by a car, it was on you for not following the clearly marked areas. But if you want to go ahead and do it, you do it safely. No one's going to give you a ticket for that. As far as the drivers are concerned, you are responsible to watch out for pedestrians, and pedestrians do have the right of way. Just so you know, that's what Riverton decided to put out there as just, it's basically an ordinance that clarifies, like you're saying, John, things that we all learned when we were 5 years old. But sometimes people forget those rules, and you should clarify it. That's why when I was really surprised, I think it was a couple weeks ago, that I saw that guy here in Cheyenne that was at the crosswalk. And, yeah, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And he waits for all of the pedestrian lights to change so he can cross two different streets at an intersection. Could he have legally just cut at an angle across the two streets since there was no traffic out there? Yes. Would a police officer have given him a ticket for that? No, not at all. Police officer would have let him alone. As long as his head was on a swivel and he wasn't out there getting himself in trouble to getting hit by a car, because what if there was a car out there and he just walked out in front of it? They say that would have been a problem, but there wasn't. So it's okay to do that. You're not going to get a ticket for that. Not in Riverton, Wyoming, anyway. They just clarified that in the recent ordinance, which I looked at and thought, good. Because there are times that the rules are there to make sense, to help keep us organized, if we all follow the rules. When it's busy, especially, those crosswalks, I use them. When there's a lot of traffic out there and it's busy, I use the crosswalks, I follow the lights, I do it according to the rules, but I don't expect that everybody else is going to do it according to the rules, so my head's on a swivel the whole time. And again, drivers, remember, watch for pedestrians, and the pedestrian has the right of way. I do think, John, sometimes we have to be reminded of these things. It's important to go out and I like what the city council did. At first, when I read the headline, I thought, oh, God, what now? But as I read what the city council in Riverton did, I thought, no, that makes complete sense. And they're just re-emphasizing the rules so everybody knows what's going on. And that's a good idea, because even though we learned it when we were 5 years old, people over time forget. That's a lot like when someone gets a ticket for just something stupid that they did while driving. Part of what the insurance companies insist, not just the government, is that people go to a driver's ed class and take a refresher's course. Because some people do forget over time. There's a lot of people out there on the roads doing really stupid things, and they probably need to be pulled into a classroom like back when they were a teenager and get a driver's ed course all over again to remind them and to show them how stupid they're being, because they forget. Chet saying all of those posts were individual posts. So did they pull down the post, Chet, about you cheering on the snow because it was helping to put out or at least slow down the fires? Because I would think they would have left those posts up anyway, depending on what you said. All right, speaking of the weather and how that's helping us out with these fires, 6:42 is the time. Dawn Day's coming up. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Want to talk to Glenn? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Oh, Frank.
Yes. I have returned.
So here I arrived in Chugwater yesterday, as I usually do when I'm heading down here to Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was sitting there eating this incredible burger that they make, this guy comes up to me, and he first off asks if it was me. And what usually I do is I point to the friend that's sitting next to me, and I say, it depends. If you intend to punch Glenn Woods in the face, that's Glenn Woods.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But if you just want, you want to say, hi, it's me.
Right.
And so the first thing this guy asked, though, is, so how did Frank do with the pizza? I mean, is he okay? So then I'm at Thankful Thursday, and two separate people walked up to me during the course of the evening. So how'd it work out with Frank and the pizza thing? Later, I like to stop by this grocery store on the way back to the hotel to pick up something for me to eat here in the morning when I get like a breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? And while I was heading toward the checkout, somebody stopped me and asked, so how'd Frank make out there with the pizza thing? He do okay? So I assume that you were just fine, and you didn't have any bad reaction.
Yes, I'm perfectly fine. I was just telling Mary, this one quick liner. Yeah. If you, when opportunity knocks, open the box.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened the box, and there was nothing wrong with the pizza. I felt good the whole day. I felt bad about stealing someone else's pizza, but they abandoned it. So finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
So I said, fine. That's fine. No, that makes total sense. There was also a long debate, as we talked about yesterday, and I'm done with the pizza thing after this, by the way.
Yes, but I am too.
Over whether you should have heated it or not.
No.
Yeah, or whether you should have eaten at room temperature or cold, and then,
Glenn, there are two things that you can have.
People went on and on it.
Two things that you can have any time of day at any temperature: pizza and chicken.
Yes.
That's all fine.
Yes. In fact, this morning, so what I did was I stopped by the deli section of the grocery store, and I picked up a couple of chicken breasts. And before I went on the air, I ate one, which was sitting in the refrigerator, and I ate a piece of cold chicken.
Mm-hmm. See?
Perfectly good, and I feel fine, except for the cold sweat that's on my brow right about now. I feel perfectly fine. Go with sports.
All right, high school football in 4A tonight. Cheyenne East will take on Rock Springs in Sweetwater County. Cheyenne East comes in at 6-1, Rock Springs 3-4. Natrona on the road at Cheyenne South. NC is 4-3, and South is 0-7. Kelly Walsh with a big game. They will be at Cheyenne Central. Kelly Walsh is at 3-4, and Central's at 1-6. In a battle of a pair of 2-5 teams, Thunder Basin will be in Laramie, and the big game in 4A tonight will be Sheridan hosting Campbell County, and both teams are 7-0. In 2A, Glen Rock at 0-7 will be at Upton Sundance. The big game in 1A 9-man tonight will be Pine Bluffs at Lingle, and both teams are 6-0. And 1A 6-man, Midwest at 3-2 will travel up to Meeteetse. Tomorrow, Little Stake River will be in Casper to meet Casper Christian. KC will host Hewlett at 1 p.m. tomorrow, and KC is 2-4. And Burns at 4-3. They will be at Newcastle. College football tomorrow, the Wyoming Cowboys will take on San Jose State on the road. The Pokes are 1-5 overall, 1-1 in Mountain West play, and the Spartans come in at 4-2 overall, 2-1 in league play. The Cowboys, the way they have been going, they're very, very close to being irrelevant. And if they lose this game on Saturday, they will be irrelevant. They're 11-point underdogs. We've heard about all the injuries. We've heard about the lackluster quarterback play. It's really at this point, the Cowboys, you see what they are. And everyone's waiting for them to kind of turn this around. We'll see. Here's San Jose State with a quarterback, Emmett Brown, who has 16 touchdown passes and just 4 interceptions, and they actually play 2 quarterbacks. They have a receiver in Nick Nash, who has been leading the Mountain West Conference. These are the kind of things that the UW secondary, beleaguered by injuries, is the last thing you want to see. That is a 2 p.m. kickoff from San Jose on Saturday, and we'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. And the NFL from last night, the Denver Broncos beat the New Orleans Saints on the road 33-10, so the Broncos are 4-3, and New Orleans, they're just bad. They're 2-5 overall. 6 sacks by the Bronco defense, plus a defensive touchdown. They ran the ball real well. Quarterback Bo Nix with 16 of 26 for 164 yards passing, 75 yards rushing. In 4A high school volleyball, Laramie will be at Sheridan tonight. Green River, Kelly Walsh, Thunder Basin at East. South will be at Campbell County, and Rock Springs will be at Natrona. In high school cross country, that 4A East conference meet will be today at the Prairie View Golf Course in Cheyenne. The 4A West will be in Rock Springs. In the baseball playoffs in the American League, Cleveland stayed alive with a 7-5 win over the New York Yankees in 10 innings as David Fry hit a 2-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th to win it for the Guardians. And the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the New York Mets 10-2. So the Dodgers lead the National League Championship Series 3-1. Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo 2-for-5 with an RBI for the Mets.
So UW really has a chance of just pretty much being irrelevant after this game.
If they lose, they will be. I can't think of any relevant teams that would be that are 1-6 and say yes, we're relevant. No, you're not.
Yeah.
We're all hoping that they in this Jekyll and Hyde thing. We're still waiting to see Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. Okay, they have a chance. All right, thank you, Frank. Yeah. Coming up on some local. Yep. What? Okay, coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. I'll talk to him about it next time. And your national news, local news update on the weather forecast. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Drop.
The time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. This is a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. And if you missed the first hour program, I reviewed real quick. Yeah, the snow did do some good up in the Bighorns and over in the Togety Pass area to give those firefighters a bit of relief and a good night's rest, anyway, where all that came down. Dawn day's on at 7:45 because they got a little more weather up there that'll be helpful. But there's also a story on the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning about the big equipment. I mean, the big Tonka toys that they're bringing in to just let's call it just deforestation to save the mountains, because they are clearing a wide swath up there, and it talks about how they plan to do that. So good news weather-wise, but that doesn't stay with us for very long. Again, Don Day, 745 to talk all about it. Also, big wave in Casper. I do have this story coming up. Kyle True of Prism Logistics, that's up in the Natrona County area, is going to sue the county. Remember that gravel pit they had up there that was denied at the last minute? Well, he's filing a lawsuit against that, so we'll get into that a little bit later on this morning. All right. Wyoming is joining other states in a lawsuit against the EPA truck mandates. Now, we've already joined a lot of lawsuits against the EPA for a lot of different reasons, but here's for you truck drivers out there. Wyoming joined 24 states. This is all led by Nebraska, filing a brief against the federal electric truck mandate. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency created an electric truck mandate to increase the sales of electric semi-trucks, and they want maybe about 60% of the trucks on the road by 2032 to be electric. So about 25% long haul out of all of them. So they think they can do this by just a mandate. We'll just go ahead and sign this mandate, and we'll make a bunch of rules so truck drivers and trucking companies will have to buy more electric trucks. And it just simply doesn't work that way. But, all right, with all the mandates and the EPA, of course, way out of bounds, just issuing rules like this. But anyway, a lot of problems with this. Infrastructure, for one, reliability issues is another part of it. And then it's typically, as far as expense goes for you truckers out there, today's average electric semi-truck, for example, because there's more than just semi-trucks, obviously, but it'll cost you about three times the price of a diesel truck. And then there's other higher costs, including about $620 billion estimated in charging infrastructure, and you know the number is going to be a lot higher than that. Utilities will have to spend an estimated $370 billion to upgrade their networks, and you know it'll be way more than that by the time they get done, if they ever get done at all. So the states filed a brief, U.S. Court of Appeals at the D.C. Circuit, to stop the Biden-Harris administration mandate. What we could use is a president and a Congress in place to just dismantle all this. Because right now all the states can really do is file lawsuits. Oh, maybe there's other ways to fight. I'm sure there is, but really that's it. What we really need is a Congress with some backbone, because, look, the bureaucracy is supposed to work for our president and at the whim of what Congress says wants done. And then the president is in charge of the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy is not supposed to just sit there writing rules and regulations like this. But, of course, they're writing the kinds of rules and regulations that the Biden administration and even Harris would like to see. So here's a quote from the lawsuit. The EPA's attempt to transform the trucking industry and supply chain infrastructure goes well beyond the agency's authority. Once again, Biden-Harris administration radical climate agenda will harm Americans. A national electric truck mandate will raise prices for groceries, strain the electrical grid, and disrupt transportation, logistics, biofuel, and farming industries that drive the Nebraska economy. Our brief makes common sense and rule of law arguments that whether to require manufacturers to sell electric trucks is a highly consequential decision. That decision should be left to Congress and states. I think not even that. The decision should be left to the trucking industry and truckers. We're supposed to have a free market here. So the idea that government can just come along and say, nope, you guys are going to drive this because we say it's a free market as a trucker or as an industry for trucking companies. They should buy what they think will work best for them, not what's mandated by the government. We're not supposed to do it that way. We're America. We're supposed to be a free market economy. The states argue that the mandate would create logistical problems and slow down transportation and essential goods, stressing the electrical grid as raising prices for Americans. And here's a quote, again, from what they filed. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, bureaucrats in D.C. want everyone in Louisiana, so this is the state of Louisiana joining the suit, to drive electric vehicles or, frankly, no cars at all. And now they want to transform the trucking industry to require electric trucks by mandate. That, according to the Louisiana Attorney General, this would only raise prices even more for consumers throughout our state and the country. So states involved in the lawsuit, ready? See if I can do this. I'm going to try to do it all in one breath, but I'm not going to make it. Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. I almost made it to Wyoming. I lost my breath at the end of it. But anyway, those are all the states involved in the lawsuit right now. So for you truckers out there, and you've known about this for a little while, but once again, here is your Environmental Protection Agency through the Biden administration trying to tell you what's best for you to drive. Now, if you're an independent trucker, you know if you're going to buy, let's talk just semis, because I know, again, there's more than just one kind of truck out there, but let's just talk semi for a while, tractor trailer. You go out to buy one of these things, whether new or used today, just a diesel one. It costs you how much just to purchase it? All right. Because then we got to get into the cost of operations and then the cost of the bureaucracy and on it goes. But just the cost of buying the thing is how much? Okay. So at least to buy an electric truck, which, as we've talked about, is unreliable, can't haul as much. There's all sorts of things wrong with electric truck. But the cost of that electric truck is 3 times the cost of buying a diesel. Now, how are you going to afford that as an independent trucker? So I look at that as the end of the independent trucking industry if they could get away with something like that. Then, of course, there's the major corporations that own trucking companies. They're going to have problems, too. All right, but let's put all that aside for a minute. I would love for Congress to do its job. Agencies should not ever be given the authority, which is what Congress gave them, to sit down and just write rules and regulations like this. And even to have the Nebraskan, I think it was the Secretary of State, but governor as well, say, this should be left to Congress. No, the decision of what you drive out there should not be left to Congress. It should be left to the business owner, to whoever's purchasing the truck, to purchase whatever would work best for them. And if that turns out to be electric, well, okay, so be it. But if it turns out to be diesel, well, then that's what's needed to get the job done. It shouldn't be up to the lawmakers to make these decisions. All right, it is a Friday, and that means it's open phones all the way. So 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. 7:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so I just got done talking about Wyoming joining a bunch of other 24 states total to go after the EPA for its electric truck mandates. And they would like about 60% of the trucks on the road to be electric by 2032, and they think they can do this just by writing some kind of mandates, which is totally unrealistic. But states are going after it because of the problems that it's going to cause. You can already see with our electric industry in general, here in Wyoming being an energy state, what we end up getting involved in, like the whole carbon sequestration nonsense and all the money we're spending on it for something that's completely useless. And it's doing nothing but making electricity less efficient, less reliable, more expensive. Not solving any problems, especially a climate problem. All right, so I'm mainly concerned with you truck drivers out there. The EPA has to be brought into line, not just through the courts, but making sure we have a Congress that'll rein in the bureaucracy and a president that'll do it as well. So on that note, since we're talking trucks here, let's go through some of what I got. Kevin in Wheatland said, don't forget the excess wear and tear on roadways caused by the greater increased weight of tractors. Yes, if you have, because you think about it, your typical semi-truck today is heavy, right? And then what they haul on top, of course. But then to take the truck itself without any weight. That's heavy enough. And when you got these trucks heading down the highways at the speeds they are, yes, that's a lot of wear and tear on the roads. That's expensive. Now let's make an electric truck, which is quite a bit heavier. So what is that going to do to the road? Now we can also get into, and once you put a lot of weight on the truck itself, those batteries lose a lot of their ability to get any. I mean, it's typical, even with any kind of diesel truck or a gas-powered truck, once you put a load on it, it's less efficient, of course. I mean, put weight as in whatever you're hauling. But it's really less efficient when it's an electric because it just can't handle pulling something or carrying something. But all right, yes, it's going to be heavy on the roads. That's going to be a lot of wear and tear. And so don't just think about the roads. What about wear and tear on the tires? And then also the axle and other parts of, because now I start thinking about other parts of the electric truck that now have to bear that weight, which if you're going to make something that can handle the weight of all the batteries, you have to have a different kind of tire, which is going to be more. And by the way, those tires are made in large part out of petroleum, just so you throw that out there. So is the road. But then what do you have to do to make sure that the truck itself, the body of the truck itself, the axle, et cetera, can handle all of this? All right, moving on. Mantic is in Casper. So how much are the batteries going to weigh? See, here's the weight thing again. For the semi, they have weight limits. So each semi will only be able to ship one pallet of product. Stupid idea. Now, that's a good one, too. Because I was watching yesterday, I saw, as I was traveling across Wyoming, I'm watching a freight train. And it did, I've thought of this before, but it just kind of entered my mind. So you have 2, 3 engines, maybe 4. And they're pulling how much? It's a very efficient way to go when you think about freight trains carry or pull so much weight, even push, so much weight. But if you're talking about a semi-truck and you're trying to save the planet, well, okay, if the truck weighs so much more and it can carry so much less, you got to make more trips. Are you really helping the planet in that case? Tumbleweeds is in KC. Electric semis, how will they make up the lost fuel tax revenue? Maintain with. They'll do that by a mileage tax, which has already been discussed by states. States have discussed mileage taxes many times, as well as your federal government. They don't have a fuel tax, which I don't mind. Being a small government guy, I like as little government as possible, as low taxes as possible. But there are some things I look at and think, well, that makes sense. I don't mind when I'm filling up at the gas station that there's a tax on the gasoline, providing the tax on the gasoline goes to pay for the road I'm about to drive on. That just makes sense. I'm paying for the road that I'm going to drive on. Total sense. So what do you do then if nobody's filling up with gasoline? Well, there's a couple of things you could do. You could have it at the whatever you plug in for to wherever you're plugging in to fill your truck up with. I'm trying to think of how would you say that to fill it up for because you wouldn't say photons. We're not talking light here for electricity. Okay, you can say a charge. I'm trying to think of a clever way to do it, and it's not coming to mind yet, but you get the idea. So basically, you're charging your vehicle. So you could go ahead and tax that as the vehicle is being charged. But usually what they do, though, is instead they put a mileage tax on, which means you're going to have some device in your vehicle ticking off your miles, and then you're going to be sent a bill for that. Yeah. And I don't trust that to be, as much as they've taken gasoline taxes and spent them on other things, which they shouldn't have been doing, I don't trust them to do the right thing with a bill like that for mileage. Okay, so let's see. Big Red. I like this conversation, he knows I can't say this kind of stuff on the radio. Big Red says, as a truck driver, I don't think you can repeat on air what we are thinking. So I asked him, see, when you text me, I'll text back. I asked him, does it begin with the letter F? His response, they can stick it where the sun don't shine. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But no, I would think that it probably just begins with the letter F, and he just kind of goes from there. So in doing all of this, though, what they haven't done at the EPA is really set down, and there's a lot of things they haven't done, but one of them is consulted with the trucking industry to see how logistically this would work, which is why I go back to get the government out of it. The very idea that, well, government should be able to mandate what kind of vehicle you have. No, they shouldn't. They really shouldn't. The only thing government should get involved in is, okay, so let's say you invent a new kind of vehicle. You in your garage, you invented a new kind of vehicle. Here's the only thing the government should worry about. One, is it safe on the road? Okay? Just to make sure that the vehicle is safe on the road for you and everybody around you. How the vehicle operates is none of their business. It's just got to be safe. So, and that includes what powers it. Now, again, CO2 is not a pollutant, so let's get that out of the, throw that out. If you built a nuclear-powered car, is it safe? We don't want to burn anyone with radioactivity, I know. That's part of is it safe. But in other ways, is it safe to drive down the highway? Well, then go right ahead. That's about the only thing that and a few other things like wear and tear, which is why we should be against electric trucks like this because of the wear and tear that it's going to cause on our highway systems. And, yeah, the taxpayers have to pay for that. So, but really, other than that, it's none of the government's business what you choose to drive. So as a trucker or owner of a trucking company, I know Judy calls us from time to time. She owns a trucking company. Same thing. It should be none of their business what she chooses to drive. She's going to pick the best vehicles for her company to get the job done in the most efficient way possible, which maximizes profitability. Yes, we need to maximize profitability. That's how we do this. Maximizing profitability is a good thing. It means we're doing things safe and efficiently. Coming up on 7:30, local news, weather forecast. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still, I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required. But
where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Joining me. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So off to a different story that was brought up, and I wanted to make sure to get to this. So remember, let's go up to Natrona County for this one. And up in the Casper area, there on Casper Mountain, there was Prism Logistics who wanted to get in there because we need gravel. And gravel can't be any kind of rock. It's got to be a certain kind of rock. And so they wanted to get up into that area, which had a good section of gravel to be mined because it was needed locally. So Prism Logistics said, okay, we're going to get up there and mine this. And they'd gone through all the steps to do so, but there were some problems and a lot of public outcry. And I was asked to host a meeting, basically moderate and make everybody behave. And it was a bit of a job, but we did it. Between the gentleman from Prism Logistics and an audience of really upset landowners. And so finally, at the last minute, it was, I believe, the county that decided, nope, we're not going to do this. Never mind. Well, Prism Logistics is coming back to sue. Here's the story from County 17. The company that wants to mine gravel on state land at the base of Casper Mountain doubts Natrona County has the legal right to block activity on land that belongs to the state. On September 17th, Natrona County Commission voted to amend a zoning rule to effectively block Prism Logistics to building a gravel pit on the Squaw Creek and Coach Road areas. That's the base of Casper Mountain. So it sued the commission asking for judicial review about the legality of that decision. Prism Logistics attorney filed a petition in the Natrona County District Court. And this is a quote, generally speaking, the petitioner argues that any proposed application of this rule to state lands is contrary to the Wyoming constitutional law, applicable statutory law, giving that authority to the Office of State Lands. So in other words, the county cannot make this call. It's up to the Board of State Lands to make the call. They're in the wrong place, is what the lawsuit's saying. The lawsuit's the latest in the saga, the story said, started in February when Coach Road resident Greg Werner saw earth-moving equipment digging holes on state land next to his house. And he called the Natrona County Sheriff's Department. Deputy came out, told him that Kyle Troop Prism Logistics had filed notices about limited operations. This is one of those things where they may file notices, but are they put in a place where the general public is going to see them? And that's different from the way notices would be. In other words, if you're looking for them in your daily newspaper, that's not really a thing anymore. You got to look for them somewhere else. So True visited the homeowner and told him of his interest in mining gravel, to which he responded, "I'm your resistance." And that's where this whole thing got started. And we've had, there was even a petition with 18,000 signatures against the proposed bit. It went on and on. It was actually a bit of a surprise to me because it was up in front of the Natrona County Commission, and they're the ones who at the last minute, unanimously, if I remember right, just said, okay, no, never mind, we're not doing this. But I think it's an interesting question, but this is state land. So can the county do that, or is it the state board who has the oversight of the land and the state board that makes the decision? So that's what's going to go now in front of the court to decide. And it doesn't surprise me. It shouldn't have surprised any of you out there. It doesn't surprise me that Prism Logistics decided to go ahead and file a lawsuit against this, because this is not just about that particular gravel site, if you think about it. It's about other gravel sites as well. This guy wants to do business. He's doing something we need. We need the gravel. And not just for our gravel roads, but for other roads as well, paved roads. We need that material. And his company is in the business of going and getting that material, so that's fine. But every so often they show up somewhere to open up a gravel mine, and there's some kind of resistance to it. So how do we settle it? And if it's a county that decides when it's supposed to be decided by the state, that's kind of a big deal. We'll find out if that is the case, though. I'm talking about it, thinking out loud as I'm going, but we haven't gotten in front of a court yet and reviewed everything to find out. I just kind of figured when the whole thing was done by the county and they shut it down that we weren't done with this yet. We got a little ways to go. All right. Good news about the weather that just came in overnight. That was really good news. I've been curious as to how much snow and rain did they get up in the Bighorns and over in Togety Pass. Do they have more coming? I have a couple of stories up about the effects of all of this snow and rain, which has been good for those fighting the fires. Has not put out the fires, but has given them, those fighting the fires, a big advantage. And they're taking advantage of their big advantage. 7:42 is the time. We'll get Don Day on to talk about this next. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Okay, Don, so that was really good news. I was all day yesterday and watching the weather overnight. So to watch Togety Pass and up in the Bighorn Mountains around Sheridan, we got some snow, we got some rain coming down. But my big question was, how much?
I did get a photo.
Don Day. There.
Hello there.
I got you now, Don. Go ahead. Yeah, I got you now. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Right now it's anecdotal. I did receive a report from a hunter, and I showed this in the podcast this morning, that was west of the Elk Fire. And it looked to me like about 6 or 7 inches of snow had fallen as of late yesterday afternoon, and they did get more last night. When we take a look at what we saw at radar, I think it's going to fall in that 6 to 12-inch range in the higher elevations of the northern Bighorns. We had a half-inch of rain in the Sheridan area, similar amounts up around there. So I think when it's all said and done, the amounts are going to end up being about what they were forecasted, which is going to be enough to certainly help a lot.
Okay. Are we done for the day, or do they have more coming?
Well, there's going to be some light showers up in the northern areas, but the heavier precipitation for the Elk Fire is done. The heavier precipitation will now be more in southern and southwest areas of Wyoming during the course of the day today. Parts of the northeast, parts of the central areas, but it's going to be lighter. The heavier moisture is done, but light precipitation is still going to be possible.
Okay. And it does sound like, I know the fire wasn't put out anywhere, but it's certainly given these guys a huge advantage in fighting the fire, so that's a good thing. In the meantime, though, I was looking at YDOT this morning to see what roads might have been impacted. Roads, for example, from Buffalo to Gillette are on the slick side, but nothing's been closed.
No, and I don't expect that. Temperatures have been just warm enough. You know, we talked about how warm it's been. That's going to keep those ground temperatures up a little bit. It'll be those mountain passes, those higher elevations. Watch the early mornings and the evenings for those wet areas to become slick. Otherwise, I think just allow a little extra time if you're traveling today. By the time we get into tomorrow and Sunday, things will be clearing out nicely.
Okay. Has anything queued up to get another round of this nice wet weather sometime next week?
We probably won't see a good producing system until maybe next weekend. We have a couple of fronts during the week, but they're not going to be strong. The thing to remember here, Glenn, is we've changed the pattern. We're gonna get back into a more typical late October pattern, and as we get to the end of the month in early November, we do see more precipitation chances coming. But they're not going to be back to back to back. There's going to be some breaks in between them.
All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with Day Weather. So off we go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's lined up with sports. Okay, got a good one for you, Frank.
I'm ready.
The richest man in Wyoming, of course, lives over in the Teton area in Jackson. The richest man in Wyoming is worth $38.5 billion, and Halloween makes him so much richer every single year.
Oh, is he one of the Mars guys?
Yes, John Mars.
Yeah, John Mars
is the guy's name. Yeah. So his grandfather invented the Mars bar, and of course that translated into all sorts of other candy, then other food products, and then other products beyond that. And so his three sons inherited the family fortune, and John Mars made the most of it, now worth $38.5 billion. And he's not somebody, in looking for more information about him, there's only one picture out there of the guy.
I thought
he's just kept off.
Yeah, I thought he owned some. The family owned some land in the northeast part of the states, around Sundance, maybe.
I think so too. There, yeah. So he's never one to been on the radar screen. He's just runs all of these big family legacy businesses and other things that he's used to make a lot of money at, but he just never wanted to be in the public eye. But I even put up on the story on the Wake Up Wyoming site the history of the Mars bar. Oh, he did get in 2015. Queen Elizabeth II awarded him an honorary knighthood.
Excellent.
At Windsor Castle.
Ooh.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Boy, I'd like to have that.
Yes. Well, after he got his knighthood, I wonder, and did he hand her a Mars bar?
I'm sure the Queen had already had them before knighting him. She's not going to knight anybody that she hasn't, some stranger.
No, of course not. So you think she's already known this guy, and she's already gotten plenty of Mars bars, which is part of the reason that he, I think, got the knighthood, because she's been enjoying all of this free candy.
That's what I get. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to really go out and say officially that that's what happened. But anyway, as you're eating your Halloween candy, just remember you're helping a Wyoming billionaire get even richer if you have certain candies in your bowl. And if you think, well, I didn't buy a Mars bar, doesn't matter. He's into so many other candies. Trust me, You made the guy richer. Okay, Frank, go with sports.
All righty, in high school football in 4A later on tonight, Cheyenne East will be at Rock Springs. East is running third in the 4A standings at 6-1, and the Rock Springs comes in at 3-4. And the Trona at 4-3, they'll be on the road at winless Cheyenne South. Kelly Walsh at 3-4, they will be in Cheyenne to meet 1-6 Central. And Thunder Basin will be in Laramie. Both teams are 2-5, and the big game in 4A tonight will have Sheridan hosting Campbell County. Both teams are 7-0. In 2A football, Glen Rock at 0-7 will be at Upton Sundance. That game played in Upton. In 1A 9-man, a big game between Pine Bluffs and Lingo Fort Laramie with Lingo hosting. Both teams are 6-0. In 6-man football, Midwest at 3-2 will be at Matiti. Tomorrow, Little Snake River will be in Casper to meet Casper Christian. Also tomorrow in 6-man football, KC at 2-4 will host Hewlett at 1 p.m. And in 2A football, Burns at 4-3 will be at Newcastle. In college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be at San Jose State tomorrow afternoon. Pokes are 1-5 overall, 1-1 in Mountain West play, and San Jose comes in at 4-2 overall, 2-1 in league play. The Cowboys are about one loss away from being irrelevant. Now, we've all heard about injuries. It's been over and blah, 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 blah. We've all heard about the quarterback play. It's been iffy, blah, 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 blah. Either the Cowboys are going to turn this thing around or this is the direction that they're going to be going. Here's San Jose State, a really good passing team, which is the last thing a beleaguered secondary from Wyoming needs to deal with. Emmett Brown, their quarterback, with 16 touchdown passes. They have a wide receiver, Nick Nash, who's leading the Mountain West in receptions. That's not a good formula at all, especially for a secondary that, they're missing a lot of guys due to injuries. And it's a 2 p.m. kickoff tomorrow from San Jose. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. The Denver Broncos in the NFL, they beat New Orleans on the road yesterday, 33-10, so the Broncos are 4-3, and New Orleans is not very good at all. They are 2-5. The Bronco defense had 6 sacks, including a defensive touchdown. They ran the ball effectively, and their quarterback, Bo Nix, 16 of 26, throwing the ball for 164 yards, and he also ran the ball for 75. 4A high school volleyball tonight. Laramie will be at Sheridan. Green River travels to Casper to be Kelly Walsh. Thunder Basin over in Cheyenne East. Cheyenne South will be at Campbell County. And Rock Springs will be at Natrona. In high school cross country, the 4A East conference meet will be today at the Prairie View Golf Course in Cheyenne. And the 4A West will be in Rock Springs. In baseball, the Cleveland Guardians beat the New York Yankees 7-5. So the Yankees now lead the American League Championship Series 2-1. The Guardians won that on a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 10th from David Fry. And in the National League Championship Series, the LA Dodgers pounded the New York Mets 10-2, so the Dodgers lead the NLCS 3-1. Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo, the Mets left fielder, 2 for 5 with an RBI in that game last night.
Have you changed your baseball picks?
No, I'm taking the Dodgers. To win the whole thing, and probably they'll play the Yankees, and the TV networks will love that, and it'll all
Frank
be good.
Will hate it, and he'll go off and do something else.
Oh no, I'll watch. The World Series is the World Series.
You're just going to bitch the whole time.
Pretty much,
basically.
Yeah.
Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on weather forecast. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Drive.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Friday. I'm glad you made it. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so phones are open the entire show. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Got to repeat this, just so you know. A decent amount of snow did fall on the Bighorns and over in Togety Pass, and rain too, and more of it's coming. Plus, they're just fogged in. So that's definitely helping the firefighters. It has not put anything out. We didn't expect that it would, but it definitely helped the firefighters. So besides that story, which is on the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning, and at some point Miss Mary alerts all of that out to those who have the Wake Up Wyoming app, there's another story which I think you get a kick out of. You should see the big Tonka toys that they brought in to fight this fire. I mean, major equipment. Because I know some so-called environmentalists will hate this, but essentially stop the fire by deforestation. They're just going through with huge equipment. It's impressive to look at the machines and tearing apart a huge swath as a fire break, plus dropping slurry and so on. It's a major fire break that they're building, and the equipment they're using is something worth looking at. All right, so again, 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. I'm going to get off to some weird topics for just a bit because I have a list of weird topics here, and I've been wanting to tell you guys about this stuff. First off, now trust me when I tell you, you never saw this headline coming. You can imagine all sorts of headlines that I might read to you. You never saw this one coming. Satanic Temple opens up abortion clinic in Virginia. Claims abortion is a religious ritual. Okay. This is from X, formerly Twitter. The Satanic Temple writes, TST Health is proud to present the world's second satanic abortion clinic. So this is the second time they've done this. Introducing the right to your satanic abortion clinic, proudly providing free abortion and telehealth services to patients in Virginia. Learn more about it here. And again, the Satanic Temple has opened the second one. The goal of the Satanic Temple in turning abortion into a ritual is so that they can make the claim that practicing abortion is a religious liberty. Okay. Now, again, you never saw that coming. I know, as a headline. That's one. That's the first one that I looked at and thought, you're not going to like it, but I'm going to read it to you. The next one. Atlanta area sheriff calls for emergency backup because they got his Burger King order wrong. Now, this sheriff is running for re-election. Somebody has body cam and other such camera video of him from other police officers. The guy running against this guy for sheriff. So the sheriff goes to a Burger King, and they screw up his order. So not only does he complain about it and calls it in as an emergency, but other cops arrive on the scene with lights. Yeah, and sirens and all that. So that's in the Atlanta area. Yeah, so that has become a campaign issue for this sheriff in the Atlanta area, calling for backup because Burger King got his order wrong. What exactly were they going to do when everybody got there? When police officers, sirens, all of that go pulling in, what exactly was the plan after that? I don't know. And this sheriff is trying to justify what he did. But there's camera video of this. So I'm just going to watch that for a while to see, does this guy get reelected or not? I don't know. All right. Now, one that I mentioned, I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to skip down to this one. Another weird one. So Tim Walz, the guy who's running for vice president and Democrat tickets, talked about to a crowd how his 90-year-old mom lives off of a Social Security check during a rally in North Carolina. Hold that thought for just a bit. We're going to get back to that. Here's what the story says. On the first day of early voting in North Carolina, Democrat vice presidential candidate Tim Walz hit the campaign trail in Durham on Thursday, trying to make a personal revelation about his mother. Now, this is to tug at people's heartstrings about his mom. During the campaign rally, Walz said his mother had to wait for her Social Security check every month just to feed herself. Now, hold on. Now, see, what he's trying to do is make a case about Social Security and government. We got to reform this. We got to fix this. Hang on. Hey, Mr. Walz, Governor Walz, you're worth over $1 million. Why is your mother living paycheck to paycheck off of Social Security? That's horrible. If I was worth that kind of money and my mom was living paycheck to paycheck, waiting for a Social Security check to come in so she can go buy groceries, I would say, hey, Mom, why don't you just move in with me? That's what we're going to do, Mom. You're just going to move in with me. I got you. I mean, you took care of me for all of those years. I can go ahead and handle you for a while. I'll take care of you. Walz spent the better part of his career, it says, in the public service sector. He was a former public school teacher. National Guardsman, served 6 terms in Congress before governor of Minnesota, 2019. Quote, we are all products of our past. Yeah, I think he is, too. He's a product of government service most of that time. And when you grow up a middle-class kid in Oakland or Butte, Nebraska, you care about Social Security, said Waltz continued, he claiming Donald Trump and all his rich friends didn't even care about Social Security. When my mom looks for that Social Security deposit to be made in her bank account, she knows that's how she's going to feed herself. That's how she's going to get things done. He, Trump, he doesn't give a damn about Social Security, check where it comes from or if it comes at all or not. Waltz also, but he never thought to reach into his own wallet to pull out some money to help his mom out. If the story's true, right? Waltz also touted 100 million Americans under Kamala Harris as president would see a tax cut, adding that he passed the largest tax cut in Minnesota history, not for the rich but for the middle class. Quote, the one thing we understand about this economy, it works best when it's fair. And he talks about the middle class. Well, having said that, the Democrats have continued to increase taxes on the middle class, even though they say the opposite of that. And when Trump cut taxes, he didn't just cut it for the rich people, the billionaires. He cut it for everybody. So, okay. After, let's see, joint interview, okay, goes on to talk about how he showed up in MSNBC and so on. But it really took somebody special. I have to hand it. This is a conservative news outlet where a conservative reporter at a conservative news outlet noticed this. When I look at other news reporting of Walt, nowhere do I find anybody saying, hey, wait a minute. If your mother is your mom is living Social Security paycheck to Social Security paycheck, and you're the governor of a state, why don't you wouldn't mom just love living in the governor's mansion? And I think everybody in Minnesota would understand if the governor took his mom in and helped her out and let her live at the governor's mansion. I bet mom would be very proud to do that. But again, other news organizations have just skipped it. Now, on that note, what I have coming up next, news organizations, we had talked about this yesterday, just as I said, news organizations are ignoring the fact that the FBI just quietly revised the violent crime numbers by quite a bit. Hang on, we got that coming up next. 8:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
8:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so 888-97 Woods the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Or you can do what my sister just did. She just sent me a note off the Wake Up Wyoming app by hitting the text message saying, since I was talking about vice presidential candidate and governor Tim Walz, the fact that he says during a speech that his mom is living paycheck to paycheck off Social Security, and she can't wait for that check to drop into her account so she can go buy groceries. I mean, she really worries about food sometimes. Well, why don't you go take care of her? You're a governor. You live in the governor's mansion. My sister says maybe his mom would rather live poor than live with him. Okay, now, because I.D. John in Granny Canyon says Waltz is a weasel, maybe my sister has a point. Which pains me, as you know, as a brother, pains me to say maybe my sister has a point. You're not supposed to say stuff like that. But anyway, she does. All right, so next story up. And just so you know, what I'm doing is a bit of house cleaning. These are things that I have in front of me that I've been wanting to get to. So I'm just getting them out of the way for the weekend, which means that any time if you got something, you can talk about what I just brought up or something else. 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. Now, I told you about this yesterday. You always got to watch out. Whenever government releases numbers, watch out for those numbers. Like, for example, January, they release economic numbers, unemployment numbers, inflation numbers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then by late spring, they revise those numbers. Hey, remember the numbers we sent you in January? Well, and they revised the numbers. They were completely bogus, wrong. Then by the end of the year, they revise those January numbers again. which show them to be even further wrong. So the first numbers we get that the news media jumps all over aren't worth looking at because they're going to be revised at least twice, if not more. So the FBI came out with violent crime numbers. That's where our friend Greg from Laramie called in. Violent crime is down. No, Greg, it's not. And I know it's not for a number of reasons, but including the Department of Justice released numbers on violent crime that says it was way up. But we also know better just by what we experience ourselves, but also me just by watching the news cycle. I know that violent crime is up, especially with illegal immigration, but violent crime is way up. And so I wanted to know what the FBI did just a few days ago. If you go to the FBI website, and they re-released the numbers. But there wasn't any fanfare. There was no word to the press, no press release, nothing. They just updated the website with new numbers. And so I wanted to know, now that we see new numbers out there, what news organization is going to bring this up? Don't expect it from MSNBC. CBS, for a matter of fact, the story I have in front of me is, it's a tale as old as time with the mainstream media. Democrats claim one thing, Republicans claim another, and the neutral fact-checkers find evidence to support the Democrats. So check out this headline. Harris says violent crime is down. Trump says it's up. Here are the facts. This is what CBS does. Harris says violent crime is down. Trump says it's up. Facts, Trump, Harris, both to look at different crime data and different sources. Harris's claims is closer to reality. That's what CBS says. So CBS is fact-checking things. So let's go ahead and fact-check CBS. Oh, they even say at CBS, crime research tells CBS News that while both are viable metrics, and that would be the Department of Justice numbers, the FBI numbers, the FBI data Harris cites is more reliable, and she is correct that it suggests violent crime is at a 50-year low. However, both Trump and Harris overlook a significant impact of COVID-19. Yeah, what they're not doing, though, is taking a look at illegal immigration. So, okay. What they're not doing, and this is the next headline, the FBI just stealth-edited their violent crime stats for 2022 and 2023. Will ABC apologize for their bogus fact-checking of Trump? So remember during the debate Trump had on television with Biden, the ABC anchor starts giving Trump a hard time, but the numbers show this. Well, the experts trust the FBI stats showing crime is down, except weeks before this fact check, the FBI changed the numbers to show that crime went up and considerably up. Experts more commonly refer to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, which tracks crime reports by police participating law enforcement agencies. According to the FBI, violent crime defined as rape, robbery, aggravated assault, homicide was around 6% lower. But guess what? It's now about, and I think the number here, I'll find it as I read this, actually about 4.3% up. The FBI was wrong on the numbers, and it took them a year to secretly correct them, and again, never sent out any press releases. So can you blame Harris for the claim? I don't. I look at, in this case, what the Harris campaign said is they were looking at the FBI data at the time. But the FBI just quietly updates the website. And if I have this right, well, it's down 6%. No, it's up like 4.3% is the number. So things are far worse when it comes to violent crime, not a whole lot better. Now, in part, I was one of those going by I looked at the FBI numbers and I said, I can't believe that based on what I know in looking at things like what's happening in the daily news around the country. Not the national news even so much, but local news organizations around the country. What are they talking about when it comes to local crime? And it looks like it's up to me, especially with illegal immigration being so high. Numbers would be up, right? Not down? Okay, well, and again, the FBI just quietly changes the numbers on their website and doesn't say a thing to anybody. And far be it from ABC News to go back and check the statistics. I mean, if you want to fact check something, I don't know about you. I check myself all the time. All the time. because I worry when I get on the mic here that I'm going to say something that's just not correct. So I'm always going back to see, did I have that right? Did I have that number right? And even then, you hear me get things wrong on occasionally. But I'm looking for what exactly is the truth. Not what do I want to be true, but what is the truth of it. And ABC News apparently is too lazy to do that. They'll check something once and go with it, but not go back. You sure we got that right? Because if they had gone back, they would have found. So to our friend Greg and Laramie, you called all excited that crime was way down. Greg, according to even the FBI, it's way up, as I was telling you last time you called. I.D. John in Granite Canyon sends me this text. Did you notice your favorite liberal, Sarah Burlingame, is running again? Yes, I did know that, yeah. Sarah Burlingame is a Democrat. She was in the House of Representatives here in the state of Wyoming for a term, and then she was, somebody else beat her. And I think she's running again in a different district this time, but for the same House of Representatives seat. And she's one of those that when I see what she wants to do in the Wyoming House of Representatives, she's not just Democrat left. She's way far left. So my thought would be, in the district that she's running, does she accurately represent that district? Do you think, John, that she has a chance of getting elected? I was surprised she got elected the first time. Do you think that she will get elected the second time around? Well, she wants to run. She can go ahead and run. I'm just interested to see where is she, and do the people in her district know her well enough? And will she win some kind of a seat this next time around? I don't know. But she certainly wants to get involved. Coming up on 8:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. Now, I got a whole lot that I'm going through here today as far as just house cleaning is concerned. You can go ahead and interrupt me at any time. 888-97-WOODS, that's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about or something else. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
Number if you want to jump on in. So I'm going to go to Weston County here in Wyoming for this. I've been watching this for a while, and it really has gotten interesting. And since we were not too far away for another Wyoming legislative session, it's going to come before you know it. When that happens, Weston County is really going to muck things up with this. So here's the story, which is a good story by Leo Wilson from Cowboy State Daily. Leo, very well written. I appreciate it. A Weston County effort to add 2 seats to solely represent their county in the Wyoming legislature. And the Wyoming House and Senate is going, no. But, oh, yes, we are. We're showing up. You better make some seats. Weston County Republican Party Wednesday selected 3 candidates, each for a new Senate seat and a House seat at the Weston County Commission, attempting to create those seats for the upcoming 2025 legislative session. The story says this exceeds their legal authority as the responsibility of the legislature to draw legislative districts and create seats. But the commission is making its play based on a clause in the Wyoming Constitution, which Weston County leader says entitles every county to its own representation. So, basically, when the Wyoming House and Senate started redistricting again, Weston County was split up. Well, Weston County would like to have its own representation. That's where the problem is. Weston County Commission plans to choose from 6 total nominees at a special meeting early next week. And here's from Garrett Borden. He told Cowboy State Daily, he's a commissioner out there. It's been supported pretty much strongly right up to now, Borden said. People across the state are supporting exactly what we're supporting. A majority of Weston County commissioners believe that the current way legislative districts are drawn in Wyoming is in conflict with the state's constitution. Currently, these districts are not aligned with county borders and are proportionally based on the population for a given area. As a result, Weston is represented by 2 houses and 2 Senate seats over to cover sections of the county, in addition to parts of a few other counties. So again, like I said, when the county's been split up, they don't have a representative specifically for that county. The commission argues that violates Article 3, Section 3 of the Wyoming Constitution, which says that each county is entitled to its own senator. Each county is entitled to its own senator and representative. There's also a footnote in the Constitution stemming from a 1991 federal court lawsuit that determines that the Wyoming legislature may disregard this stipulation when it redistricts because it's inconsistent with the U.S. Constitution concept of one man, one vote. So you see the two collide, don't they? This is going to get interesting because, again, Weston County is going to select these people and send them to the Wyoming House and Senate this next legislative session, and there's not going to be any chairs for them. Nobody's going to be on any committees. So what then? I think lawsuit is what happens next. I think Wyoming Supreme Court is what happens next. Okay. The story says in the unlikely circumstances that a lawsuit isn't filed to block Weston's effort, it's not clear what will happen to the people chosen by the county and whether they go down to the legislature in January and attempt a legislative desk or not. In an email obtained by Cowboy State Daily on Thursday, the Wyoming GOP Chair Frank Ethorn said he supports efforts to give each county their own senators and representatives and plans to have the state party work on the issues statewide. He says our current gerrymandering districts are ridiculous and unauthorized. And in some cases, I would say yes. I've seen some districts where it's got a weird little squiggly line going around somebody's house or area because, you don't want that guy running for office. And currently, Weston is one of 8 Wyoming counties that lacks sole representation in the legislature. I didn't know that. One of 8 Wyoming counties that lacks sole representation. But Ethorn stopped short in his email of giving an outright endorsement of the way Weston commissioners are going about this whole process, which he says is there's some disagreement in this. Ethorn says the process the commission is using isn't covered by state law. So this is why, again, it's very interesting how they're going about this. Although the commissioners follow the normal process for declaring a political vacancy in Wyoming, they strayed from the law because of the fact that they're creating new seats by themselves. Which, again, is why I say these guys show up, but sorry, no such seat exists. While the Wyoming GOP is familiar and conducts somewhat a regular Title 22 vacancy process, it's unclear how and in what manner they could or should proceed in such case. So, some opposition. Weston County Nathan Todd doesn't support the way his commission is going about the process, which was initiated by a 3-2 vote this spring. He was one of those that opposed this and said we got to go about this in an entirely different way. Taylor and Barton commissioner, it talks about how the different people voted and what different ways we can go ahead and fix this problem if there is even a problem. Which I do remember having a conversation with some people who are in the Wyoming House and Senate about the way districting is currently done. And it does come into, here's part of the problem with it, because right away you might think, well, they're gerrymandering for political reasons, and I wouldn't doubt that some of that happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but another part of it is we have areas around Wyoming where, hey, here's a good chunk of people in a populated area, but then you have nothing for the longest distance before you get to another populated area, and even then, that's not much. And so things are spread out. As you know, I mean, you live here, things are really spread out like that. And with a lot of little clumps and a few big ones. So if you were to cut the state up into political districts, and you're trying to get, as best you can, equal population for the House and equal population for the Senate for each person in those seats, how would you do that? That's where it gets really difficult. And, yeah, when you take a look at the way they gerrymandered, it's, in some cases, it even looks a little bit convoluted to me. So the idea that and I do like the idea that each county should have its own representation, but that would mean that some counties are going to have, a pretty good population, and other counties pretty much have nothing. And we got some counties out here that there's really not much, I think you've noticed. So what then? Okay, this is what's trying to be resolved. And it's not a new issue. I am right in Evansville, Weston County, had the opportunity to object to the redistricting in court, but never did. Each body has the authority to reject members by a 2-3 vote. Okay. So, and I think that that's what's going to happen. They're going to reject this, but then it goes to court. Cyberpoke and Laramie, just something funny. Oh, something completely different. The NFL is now noting more the NFL is now nothing more than pro wrestling with lipstick. A soap opera. As the world hurls, starring a pop star, the romantic interest of a hero who is played by, so you got this whole thing out. He's got this whole thing out. And, he throws in a blind squirrel to that. Okay, I'm going to have to read all of that, Cyberpoke, because you wrote basically half a novel. I'll read that and pick it apart, but basically you're not happy with the NFL anymore. What, just too much drama for you, not enough football? I get it. I'm not even a sports fan, and I get it. You can blame a lot of the news media that covers sports for that because they're not covering sports, they're covering the drama. 8:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Time to go talk to Frank Gambino. Before I get into this topic, Frank, which is an actual sports topic, believe it or not.
All right. Well, I'll be the judge of that.
How's the candy bowl doing?
Well, it's been depleted again. There's a bunch of, listen, the eyeballs are not edible.
So you want edible. There is such a thing. There's eyeballs that you open them up, it's chocolate.
And here's the thing, Glenn. You will decide why the bowl still is full with those Whoppers. You know why? Because they're not any good.
Oh, you don't like the Whoppers?
Get rid of them. Nobody's taking them.
Okay.
I mean,
so I've eaten a few of the Whoppers. I didn't think they were that bad.
Well, you're the only one, so we'll save them for you. But all it is eyeballs and Whoppers, and that's not good enough.
Okay. Well, you know why, Frank, is because you and a few other people, and I know who the other people are too, have eaten I told you guys, you got to pace yourselves here because it's not getting refilled till Monday.
No, we are wolves here.
I understand that.
Anytime somebody brings in food or drink,
I get it.
It's devoured.
Yes, but I'm not going to be back up there until you're just going to have to wait till Monday.
You have to tell me with the secret place for the candy.
There is no. Yeah, the store is the secret place. No. It's the store.
It's in this building somewhere.
No, it's not. I don't know. If I buy a bag of candy, it goes immediately into the bowl.
It's in the piano, isn't it?
No, it's not. But although that's not a bad idea, but it's not. No. So sorry, you're going to have to wait till Monday. Cyberpoke is in Laramie.
Cyberpoke.
Yes, and he sends me this note, which he's basically, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest because this is long. Basically, the NFL has become a soap opera, and he would like them, especially the reporters, to start reporting sports and not drama.
Yes, I would agree. But you know what? The world has changed. This drama thing and outside influences all are now part of the deal because of page views and listener and viewer engagement.
So I don't blame the reporters for that. The reporters are reporting what people are clicking on.
That's it. And it's changed. And a lot of people don't like that stuff. Like for instance, every time that the Kansas City Chiefs play, there's Taylor Swift is there because her boyfriend plays on the Chiefs. I'm like, I don't.
And that's what they report on.
Well, I mean, at least they show her every time. I don't have a problem with that. There's just another fan. Some people are like, oh my God, we can't take it anymore. Listen, relax, watch the game.
All right. 8:51, go with sports.
All right, high school football. Cheyenne East will be on the road tonight at Rock Springs. East comes in at 6-1. The Natrona also on the road in Cheyenne. They will take on South, and the Natrona is 4-3, and South is 0-7. Kelly Walsh in Cheyenne to take on Central, and Kelly Walsh comes in at 3-4. Central 1-6. Central's kind of got to play their way out of being eliminated from the playoffs here. Thunder Basin and Laramie, a pair of 2-5 teams, will meet down in Laramie, and the big game in 4A tonight will have Campbell County at Sheridan. Both teams are 7-0. Glen Rock in 2A, looking for their first win of the year after 7 losses, will be at Upton Sundance in Upton. Big game in 1A 9-man football. Pine Bluffs will be at Lingle. Both teams are 6-0. And in 6-man, Midwest at 3-2 will be at Batiti. Tomorrow, Hewlett at 2-4 will host Hewlett, and Casper Christian will host Little Snake River. Also, they'll hold Casper at Natrona County High School at 1 in the afternoon. And in 2A football, Burns at 4-3. They will be on the road tomorrow at Newcastle. In college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will try to reverse their fortunes. They'll be at San Jose State on Saturday afternoon. Cowboys are 1-5 overall and 1-1 in Mountain West play after that loss to San Diego State. And the Spartans, they're 2-1 with in league play and 4-2 overall. And they have a pretty effective passing game with their quarterback Emmett Brown, who has 16 touchdown passes so far, and a really good receiver in Nick Nash, who used to be their quarterback. This is the last thing the Wyoming secondary, beleaguered by injuries, needs to see is a proficient passing game, and that's going to be tough. Now the Cowboys, they're 11-point underdogs. We've gone over their injury situation before. We've gone over their iffy quarterback play before. It's like we're waiting for this to turn around, and maybe it will, and probably won't. That's a 2 p.m. kickoff from San Jose on Saturday. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. The Denver Broncos in the NFL, they're 4-3 with a win over New Orleans yesterday, 33-10. So the Saints are 2-5. Bronco defense really came to play. They had 6 sacks in the game and a defensive touchdown. And quarterback Bo Nix was 16 of 26 for 164 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He also ran the ball for 75 yards. In high school volleyball, Laramie will be at Sheridan tonight. Green River at Kelly Walsh in the 4A ranks, Thunder Basin at East, south of Campbell County, and Rock Springs will be at Natrona. In the baseball playoffs, Cleveland beat the New York Yankees 7-5 in 10 innings, so now the Yankees lead the American League Championship Series 2-1. The Guardians won that with a 2-run homer from David Fry in the bottom of the 10th inning. In the National League Championship Series, the Los Angeles Dodgers demolished the New York Mets again. The final score 10-2, so the Dodgers lead that NLCS 3-1. Brandon Nimmo, the Mets left fielder, a Cheyenne native, 2 for 5 with an RBI in last night's game. And that's in sports for now.
So I think the moral of the story, and our friend Cyberpoke brings up a good point, if you would like news reporters, and since we're talking sports, to report on sports, then when you are looking at stuff online, that's what you click on. If you want gossip and drama, 9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. And phones are open. 888-97-WOODS. That's 888-97-WOOD. As I'm pausing for just a minute here, take a look at a couple of things. First off, a lot of wet did come across Wyoming, especially where we wanted it last night. Much of that is petering out now. You're going to get some cloudy conditions. Still pay attention to I-80 later on today. There are some roads that are on the slick side, according to YDOT. So, for example, let's see, between Gillette and Buffalo, mostly from Gillette heading toward Buffalo, watch out for that. If you're in Gillette and you want to get anywhere north or south or east or west, and there's a lot of slick out there right around you, so careful of that. Also, if you're in Buffalo or Tensleep, you want to get over the Bighorns on 16, you can. It's not closed. It's just kind of sketchy right now. Also, when we get up into Togety Pass, same thing. And it's good news just because a lot of snow fell, and that's good. Now, it did not put out any fires, but it certainly has given firefighters a real head start on this. They got a good night's sleep last night. It's still, because, the weather was doing it for them, there's still a lot of fog up there and wet. And so they are now reassessing where they are and what they're going to do with this, because this gives them a huge advantage. Although after this, it dries out for a few days. Not until forecasted so far anyway. Next weekend, we have another weather event like this. We'll keep you posted. But, there is a good story. If you like big machines, up in the Bighorns at the Elk Fire, they've gotten real serious about this because the fire is that bad. And they brought out some huge equipment. And they are engaging in some serious deforestation to clear out fuel ahead of the fire. And I've got some pictures and descriptions of the machines they're using. And wow, they really mean business. So it's on the Wake Up Wyoming website. Also, use your Wake Up Wyoming app to take a look at that. If you like big machines, you can take a look at what they're doing to get ahead of the fire. Now, again, you can interrupt me if you want, change the topic. That's just fine with me. I'm going to go someplace a little bit different with this next segment because there's something you can blame. Cyberpoke is what he goes by in Laramie, and that is somebody who texts me off the Wake Up Wyoming app by hitting the chat option. And he was disappointed. Here's the Reader's Digest of what he wrote. He was really disappointed when he's trying to follow sports. And what they're covering is drama. And I started thinking about this while you were in that news and information break, and my thought was, well, you can blame reporters for that, and I get it. Because drama sells. I've been in this business since I was literally in high school. I was on my high school newspaper. So I've been doing this thing for a while. And one of the things we're trained to do, whether I was writing for my school paper or I got into radio, a little bit of TV, all that, is controversy sells. The headline, if it bleeds, it leads. That kind of a thing. And that was true back when newspapers ruled. They would have to have that screaming headline that would get people to stop, put money into a machine, and pull out a newspaper. That's how newspapers were sold. They had to have that screaming headline. Controversy sells. That's human nature. That's the way we are. Oftentimes, I get really disappointed. I mean, every single morning I go through, you'd be really surprised how much news I go through. Well, I can't even call it news. How much garbage I go through. Looking for news, something to talk to you guys about. And how much I just throw away as that's garbage, that's drama. But I don't have to wonder about why so much of that drama is written. Because that's what people click on. Today, it's not putting a coin in a newspaper box on the street corner. Now it's people sit there with their phones, swiping, looking for something to consume. And when they find something of interest, and here's the flaw, folks. You find something and you stop. That was your first mistake. And it might be something that you hate. Why are they doing this? We oftentimes here at Town Square Media, I'll go ahead and write, let's say, some article that's satirical. I'm just having fun. I'm trying to make you laugh. It's satirical. And somebody will see that on our social media, and they'll go ahead and click on it and leave a comment. Why are you posting this? How is that even news? Well, we don't just cover news here on our websites, not just the Wake Up Wyoming site, but the radio stations that carry this program also carry my articles. And they carry more than just news. They carry a lot of different things. But the very fact that while you're swiping out there, you stopped, and then you tapped on it. Stopping was your first. If you don't like content like that, stopping was your first mistake. Your second mistake is you tapped on it. Then you left a comment saying you didn't like it. So what we see on our end, what advertisers see is, well, he stopped, he tapped on it, he commented. Then let's say you left a thumbs down that you didn't like it. So you stopped, you commented, or you stopped, you tapped, you commented, and then you reacted to it with an emoji. Who cares what the emoji is? Well, right there, advertisers are looking for interaction. That's why they advertise. And that's how we make our money. You engaged. If you want that kind of content to go away, don't say anything. Just keep going. That's one of the things I do all the time is I've learned to over the years. As I'm scrolling through, if I see something that I really don't even want to be on the internet, I think of it as boring or annoying or stupid or whatever, I just keep going. I keep going. Because I know if I even slow down, they're going to count that. He viewed it. Well, if I kept going, then it's not considered a view. Again, your comment doesn't have to be a good comment. They don't care. News media, not just the one I work for, but other news media outlets across the country, big and small, all they want is your interaction, and they put that in front of advertisers. And advertisers take a look at, oh, wow, look at all the people who interacted. And that's where they put their money, in advertising. So if you want that kind of content to go away, be very careful. Don't slow down. When you see something you don't like, don't slow down. Don't stop. Don't tap on it. Don't comment. I don't care what the comment is. No comments. Don't like or dislike or anything else. Don't do that. If you share it, dear Lord, if you share something, we're definitely going to get more of that. So one of the problems that I have when I go, as much as I want to blame news media outlets for all of the garbage content that's on the internet these days, I also have to blame the American people. Because writers out there, news outlets, even entertainment outlets, sports outlets, and so on, are just responding to what you did. Now, if you clicked on stuff and reacted to and liked and shared and so on, stuff that you really want to see, you did that solely, you would see more of that. More of that would be produced across the country. And so as a guy who consumes a lot of political and social news every single day, like I said, I throw out so much garbage that I'm not even going to tell you guys about because it's not worth your time. Why is all that garbage produced? Because that's what people are reacting to out there. Kent and Cheyenne. Glenn, what is the origins of when something peters out? Hang on a second now. Here's a good use for the internet here. This is a great question because he's asking about a phrase I just used. Is it a phrase I just used, peters out? Okay, so let me see. Does it have to do with something named Peter? Someone named Peter? Okay, here I found it. The phrase peters out means to gradually diminish or dwindle to nothing, and its origin believed to be a reference to the biblical apostle Peter, who strongly supported Jesus, but it quickly faded when he denied knowing Jesus, therefore petered out. So, Kent, apparently that's where that comes from. 9:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:21 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, back I go here. So I started off with Cyberpoke. I'm still picking on you. He started off with a story about why so much of his sports that he pays attention to is picked up by, instead of, for example, football is not football anymore. It's all the drama surrounding football. Why can't we just get into football? Why all the drama? Because that's what people react to. And so that's what they put out there. If people reacted to other things, they would put other things out there. So before I read this next story, which relates, I'll go ahead and do it again. Beware, because you're part of the problem. We all are. If you're on your phone or on, very few people are actually using their laptop or tower computer to surf the internet, although it does happen a lot. But most people are doing it on their phone, okay? So as you're swiping along, if you see something you don't like and you pause, strike one. Because you paused. And that's reacting to it, which is what advertisers are looking for. So more of that will be created because you paused. Then you tapped on it. Strike two. You tapped on it, you're reacting to it, so more of that will be produced. Then you left let's say you left a nasty comment. Oh, I hate this crap. Well, you just commented on it. Strike three. You should have not commented because that's a reaction. And that's what they're looking for, so more of that content will be created. Then you went and left an emoji, like a thumbs down or an angry face or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a negative emoji. You reacted to it, which is what they want. If you shared it, you want to show your friends how stupid it is, now you've really blown it, and a lot more of that will be created. Now, if you think this is a new thing, came across this as a headline, 300-year terror, how the printing press fueled witch hunts and misinformation. The invention of the printing press, 1450, revolutionized how people communicated. Books, newspapers could easily be printed and sent across towns in hours, allowing people to spread knowledge. Though the printing press represented an intellectual milestone for humanity, it's also been found that the reason behind mass hysteria, things like witches and so on, the printing press. You can blame news media in part for that, but it's not just them. One publication that became extremely popular across Europe in 1487 was Witch Hunting Manuals, which was a fan favorite with copies spread across cities and fueled the hunt for demonic witches. People read the manual describing how to spot a witch and other published news of witch trials in their towns, according to the authors, seeing what neighboring towns were doing, dealing with witches, influence how other towns would do it. Well, you see what they're doing over there in Smithville, we should do that too. Just people are smart in Smithville, you know. Quote, cities weren't making these decisions in isolation, said the lead author of this study. They were watching what their neighbors were doing and learning from examples. The combination of new ideas from books and the influence of nearby trials created the perfect conditions for all of this nonsense to be spread, including witch trials and how they dealt with witches. The belief in witchcraft was not something that sprung up in one day. Europeans believed in witches for centuries, but it was only discussed in small circles, such as religious scholars and local inquisitors and so on. However, printing witch hunting manuals put a greater spotlight on witches, providing a guide for finding, questioning, prosecuting witches. In the 300 years of persecution trials, about 90,000 people were accused, and nearly half of them were sentenced to death. The new study was published by Theory and Society, built on previous research examining factors influencing the spread of witchcraft. These works emphasize economic and environmental factors, and et cetera, et cetera. Researchers tracked the timing with the publications of witch hunting between 1400 and 1679. Along with printing manuals, also it came up in local newspapers and so on. The authors noticed neighboring cities were influenced by witch hunting trials that they read in their local newspapers. When one city adopted a practice, so did other cities. This happens still, you see this today too. One city adopts some idiotic ordinance, and all the other cities across America, that's a great idea, and they do it too. While people aren't accusing others of being witches nowadays, well, to an extent they are, some principles for social change that allows mass hysteria to happen, cult of climate change, can be seen in society today. The process of adopting witch trials is not unlike how modern governments adopt new policies today, says the story. It often starts with a change of ideas, and again, it just goes, as we call it today, it goes viral. So, if you were looking at this thinking, well, you know, this is a new thing that happens today, you know, why, by golly, back in the good old, in my day, no, it was just as bad back then as it was today. It's just that the technology that we used was different then than it is today. In fact, I would say the only difference really today, it happens faster than it did back then. Something can go viral a whole lot faster now than it did way back when. Some bad idea can pop up. Now, I still love when I look at what's called misinformation today. And some of the worst misinformation, bad information, incorrect information, lies, manipulation, comes from news media and government. Although I can't say that it's not the fault of just your average citizen out here. It comes from your average citizen, too. But, yeah, a lot of it comes from government and news media, not just because they're corrupt, but they're ignorant and et cetera, et cetera. So you see why. That's one of the biggest problems the human species has always suffered from, is mass hysteria. And the fuel for that fire has been around for a long time. The printing press helped. Television, radio, helped. The internet, wow, that really spreads it. I mean, fast. Coming up on 9:30, local news coming away after local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the phones we go. Bob has been waiting by. Morning, Bob.
Morning.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Pacific Power always calls and says if you're going to do any trenching or digging, call them and they'll come out and mark your lines.
Yes.
Well, I called them, and then, because I'm a house burnt down, and I needed a new water line put in and stuff. But anyhow, and they give me a runaround, and I was on the phone for about an hour, and they kept telling me call 611, and every time I called 611, they cut me off. And then I called them back and got a hold of one of the gals in there, and she gave me a number that went out of state. And when I got through to them, they said, well, I was going to go rent a trencher and, and dig my own line. And then they said, well, you got to have a contractor do it. And I said, what? And this went on for a long time. But anyhow, I finally said, to heck with it. I live out in the country here. Yeah. And I said, I'll cut the power off and dig the trench, and then if I cut the line, I'll splice it back. And anyhow, they hung up on me, and I went ahead and rented a trench and went out and dug it. I didn't cut a line, but that's a joke. It's hard to get them to come out and mark it,
Yeah. Well, okay, it's obvious that whoever you were dealing with there, this is typical government for you, because we get public service announcements to play on the air all the time that you should call this number before you dig. You're told that all the time. Well, you're calling the number before you dig. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. They apparently don't have their act together. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But I was wondering how many other people have that problem,
Yeah. I would bet a lot.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad you didn't blow anything up or get electrocuted.
Yeah, well, I pretty well knew that they wasn't. We got some underground lines, but I kind of knew where they were at, and I just rerouted the ditches the different directions and dug it anyhow. So
okay.
I was wondering if anybody else is having that problem.
Yeah. I would guarantee you pretty much everybody else is having that problem. I'd guarantee it.
Yeah.
All right.
People know it's a pain.
It is a pain. I think everybody does know that. All right, let me talk about that for a minute. Thank you for calling, Bob. This is very typical of when people do try to do the right thing, because you're told. I'd like the joke. If someone breaks into your house, what do you do? Well, I dial 811. Don't you mean 911? Oh, no, they tell you to call before you dig. So it's a great joke. But all right, what happens when you do everything you're told? Now, there are some people, to their credit, who work for your city and your county and your state. And they're really good people, and they do a great job. So I don't want to show any disrespect for those people. I've met them. They're good people. They do a great job. But then, of course, things do get caught up in bureaucracy, and you're trying to do the right thing. And, dear Lord, it just becomes a mess. Now, of course, nobody wants to go digging and cut a line or something like that. Of course, people are going to try to do the right thing. Now, if it were, this is why I'm a huge proponent of private sector. Private sector is always worried about keeping your business. So they don't want to screw something up because they know if they screw something up, they've just lost a customer, which means you're not going to make as much money, or they might go out of business. Government doesn't care. They get to keep their jobs, and you're going to get raises no matter what. So it's okay if you're a dissatisfied customer. So what Bob was talking about, I find that to be actually kind of typical. Unfortunately, that turns out to be a really typical thing because this is what they tell us. And again, we on these radio stations that carry this program, we run that as a public service announcement. Call before you dig. And you should. It's a good idea. So to those people who work in local government and state government, there are people out here who are trying to do the right thing. And I know most of you are actually hardworking people also in government trying to do the right thing. Just remember, there are those folks like Bob doing everything he's supposed to be doing, and yet all he got was a runaround to the point he finally said, screw it, I'm taking matters in my own hand. Never mind, I just am. And if you ever wonder why people do that, it's because they've just got fed up. They've had enough, and I'm just going to do it myself. And if I get in trouble for it, I get in trouble for it. But, so what? And at that point, I have to look at it and say, I really don't blame them for that. I mean, I would like them to do it the safe way. I mean, nobody, especially if you live it, not only do I worry about Bob's safety, but especially if you live in a neighborhood and suddenly the power goes out or the water goes out and it was some guy out there with a backhoe, you would have liked for him to have done the right thing. What if he tried to and he just couldn't get any reaction or any help? Yeah, all right. So for those people who are in government, when you get phone calls like that, I mean, honestly, do your best because there's some citizen out there who's trying to do the right thing. They really are. All right, coming up on 9:42 and one last break with Frank Gambino in sports. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Hope.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Coming up on 9:48 is Wake Up Wyoming. Before I get to Frank, real quick, this one's for Miss Mary. So our newsman Doug just walked in and said that there is a event going on where they will be training or raising money to train police dogs. And he wants to know, should I go to the event? And I said, well, if they have dogs there and you can get pictures of the dogs, then you should go because pictures of those dogs in your story will send the story viral. But he said, I don't think there's going to be any dogs there, in which case I said, then who cares? So, with that in mind, let's head over to Frank Gambino.
Okay, hold on. There's training canine dogs.
They want to raise money to
they want to raise money.
Yes.
But why aren't they bringing the dogs? Everyone wants to see the dogs.
That's what he's going to find out because I told him if there are dogs there, you go there and you get pictures.
Yeah.
And then put those pictures in your post, and the post will go nuts.
Yeah.
No dog pictures, who cares?
You know what's happening, Glenn? We've gone to the dogs.
Yes, we have. Okay, now, as you travel around, you'll, every so often, Frank, as you go in and out of the state, pass that Welcome to Wyoming sign.
Yes.
Okay, now it's time. Those signs are getting old, so they're putting up a new one.
Well, of course.
The new ones look more like a big postcard. There's scenes of the Tetons and Devil's Tower and a canyon and some lakes. It's really pretty.
You know what, Glenn, you know what never fails me when I go in and out of the state? How many people have their pictures taken in front of those signs?
Oh, yeah. Now, here's the deal. What would you do then with the old signs?
You sell it.
Yes. And now the last time they sold that, YDOT sold a bunch of old Welcome to Wyoming signs. They made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I forget, it was something like $36,000 or something like that.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. And that money went into YDOT for more road projects and so on. So absolutely so. So, Frank, if you would like a giant, now I can just picture this over your couch, a giant welcome to Wyoming sign. So, which will, of course, it's a big heavy metal sign. At some point, will fall on your head and kill you. But it would be in your living room.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would probably put it in my garage.
Yeah.
And just when the door opens, then
Right.
people will be able to see this thing right there. And then I could charge admission. What I can do is I can have people take pictures of themselves with that sign in my garage.
Wait, Frank, I got a better idea. You and I buy one of those signs. We'll go in halvesies. We go in deep into South Dakota and drive all the way up to the North Dakota border, where we take down the Welcome to North Dakota sign and put up the Welcome to Wyoming sign.
You know what that reminds me of?
Yeah.
There's, what was it, a guy in Milwaukee that lived in the flight path of the planes that were... And he painted on his roof, "Welcome to Cleveland."
Yes, that's hysterical. Yeah. Oh, I admire that guy, and I want to shake his hand. All right, coming up on 9:51. Go with sports.
All right, high school football in 4A, and the Natrona will be at Cheyenne South. NC comes in at 4-3. South is 0-7. Kelly Walsh with 3-4. They'll be at Cheyenne Central, and the Tribe is 1-6. The Thunder Basin will take on Laramie in Laramie. Both teams are 2-5. Cheyenne East is 6-1. They'll be on the road at Rock Springs. The big game in 4A tonight will have number 1 Sheridan against number 2 Campbell County. Both teams are 7-0. In 2A football, Glen Rock at 0-7 will be at Upton Sundance in Upton. The big game in 1A 9-man will have Lingo Fort Laramie against Pine Bluffs. Both teams are 6-0. And Midwest in 6-man football will be at Matitsi. Tomorrow, KC will host Hewlett, and Little Snake River will be in Casper, take on Casper Christian. Burns at 4-3 tomorrow will be at Newcastle. Wyoming Cowboy football team will be at San Jose State tomorrow afternoon. The Pokes are 1-5 overall, 1-1 in Mountain West play, and San Jose is 2-1 in the league and 4-2 overall. Obviously, the Cowboys are about one loss away from being completely irrelevant. They're 11-point underdogs in the game where the injuries, blah, 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 the quarterback play, blah, 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 blah. People are getting tired of hearing it. However, maybe there's a chance. But then with San Jose State's passing game, that's the last thing an injury-depleted secondary needs to see. Their quarterback, Emmett Brown, has 16 touchdown passes. They have a great receiver in Nick Nash, who used to be their quarterback. He leads the Mountain West in receiving. Those are not good intangibles for this Cowboy team at this particular juncture of the season. 2 p.m. kickoff from San Jose tomorrow. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. To the National Football League, the Denver Broncos won their 4th game of the year against 3 losses with a 33-10 win over the New Orleans Saints on the road. The Bronco defense had 6 sacks in the game. They also had a defensive touchdown. It was pretty much just grinding this game out. Bo Nix, their quarterback, 16 of 26 for 164 yards with 75 yards rushing and no touchdowns. In 4A high school cross country, the 4A East meet today will be in Cheyenne at the Prairie View Golf Course, and the 4A West meet will be in Rock Springs. A week from tomorrow is the state high school cross country meet that will be held at Little America in Cheyenne. In baseball, the Cleveland Guardians over the New York Yankees 7-5 in 10 innings. In the American League Championship Series, the Yankees still lead the best-of-7 series 2-1. David Fay with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 10th inning to win that for the Guardians. And the Los Angeles Dodgers creamed the New York Mets 10-2, so the Dodgers lead the National League Championship Series 3-1. Mets left fielder and Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo 2 for 5 in that game with an RBI. And that's it in sports for now. Have a safe weekend.
Hang on. If they're going to do track at Little America, where do they run? On the golf course?
On the golf course, yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, the cross country. So there's part on one end of the golf course. It's a big open field where they have the start and the finish, and they'll go up the hill through the golf course and then back down the hill back to that area.
Do they run on the fairway? Or
yeah, absolutely. They run on the fairway.
Wow.
They don't run on the greens, but they'll run on the fairway and the cart paths too.
I might have to go see that just because that is so weird.
That is a week from tomorrow.
And you know where I'll be staying anyway.
If you can get a room there.
Well, I have to be down to do stuff here.
Well, so did all these cross-country runners, too.
Yeah, but no, it was already pre-booked by Town Square Media. I'll let you know how it goes. Hey, Frank, have a great weekend.
You too.
All right, let's wake up, Wyoming.